Hello, everybody. My name is Sasha Andreev. Welcome to the Prestige Global Meeting Sources Education webinar, where we explore topics that affect your professional and even your personal lives as event planners. I'm so excited to join you all today, whether you're here for the first time or coming back to us, because we're going to be talking about something that I personally know about from both sides of the stage: the power of keynote experiences, what makes them work, what makes them flop, and what you as a planner need to know before you book one. It's going to be a really interesting presentation and conversation with our guest, Sébastien Sasseville, with many useful takeaways. So you should be glad you're here with us today. Now, before we start, a quick word about who brings this series to you every month. Here at Prestige, we provide full-service meetings and event support, making our clients' lives easier with site selection, event logistics, housing and flight management, creative marketing, and personalized on-site support, in collaboration with a global network of hospitality partners, all for your success. And keeping you informed and empowered is part of our mission, and that is why I'm so thrilled about today's guest. For this month's topic, we've invited somebody who I've personally had the pleasure of working with multiple times, Sébastien Sasseville. Now, a little bit about Sébastien. He's a globally recognized keynote speaker, author, and endurance athlete who has delivered more than 1,000 presentations worldwide, including a TEDx talk, combining real-world business experience with extraordinary feats like summiting Mount Everest with type 1 diabetes. He brings a unique perspective on creating keynotes that truly connect. Sébastien partners with planners to design engaging, high-impact experiences that resonate long after the event ends. And today, Sébastien will be speaking about some of the secrets that speakers don't want you to know. And with that being said, welcome, Sébastien, to our webinar series.
Secrets we don't want you to know. That's perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you.
exactly. Yeah, we're going to be dishing. But honestly, we're really going to be talking about best practices. And I know that you're an author, you're an athlete, you've had upwards of 70 speaking engagements under your belt of various sizes, upwards of thousands of people.
70 a year.
70 a year. There you go. That important one. But one of the big subjects today is talking about speaker bureaus and how to hire a keynote speaker. But we're not talking to an agent, we're talking to the speaker himself. So some people might be wondering why we're talking to you today.
Yeah, well, I mean, thanks for the warm welcome officially. I've been and why me? Why now? I'm not going to do my talk today, want to reassure you, because I know some of the prestige folks are there. So we're looking under the hood today. And I guess the speaking business is a business. You can go direct with speakers. You can go through a bureau. They both have pros and cons. We'll discuss that extensively, but it is a business. Speakers want to talk. You want to put together great events. You need to be collaborating. Like any business owner, you want to speak more. You want to speak on bigger stages. That takes time. You need partnerships. And at the end of the day, great work is always rewarded. So yes, positioning, branding, bureaus, relationships, but I mean, when you're on stage, on the platform, you gotta crush it, you gotta kill it, but that's the visible part. So when you're on stage, that's 60 minutes and you've been talking to the client for 6 to 12 months. And that's what we want to discuss, those 6 to 12 months prior. What should happen? What shouldn't happen?
Exactly. Well, I'm excited to hear your presentation and then chime in at the end, because even as somebody who gets hired as an MC, as an external body to represent a brand or contribute to it, I think we probably have a lot of overlap, and hopefully we'll get a lot of questions during your presentation that we can discuss, because there's a lot to talk about. Before I let you start your presentation, I just want to remind everybody that if you do have a question during the presentation, there's a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. I encourage you to use it. It logs that question so that we can address it afterwards in our discussion. We've also left our chat open, so please use it to interact, to say hello. Cindy Gee's already said hello from steamy Toronto. And also, Sébastien will likely be posing some questions for you. So please use the chat window to respond, because it's just going to make this presentation a whole lot more fun. I also want to remind everybody that we record every one of our webinars, and then they're made available for viewing at the Prestige Global Meeting Source YouTube channel. So in case you want to watch this back, share it with somebody who wasn't able to be here. That is a great tool for you to use for this webinar and all the webinars that we've done in the last few years. So with that being said, Sébastien, the floor is yours, and I will see you in a little bit.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen. And by the way, I've never given this presentation. It's just my thoughts on the industry. So please be easy with me. So so everybody can see my screen. Sasha, if you just want to confirm this, you can hear me, you can see the slides.
Nice and clear.
Beautiful. All right. So we covered this a little bit already. So very quickly, my name is Sébastien. I'm an author, former or current athlete and speaker. I've been speaking professionally for about 14 years. That's over 1,000 gigs. That's globally. I focus primarily on everything: teamwork, leadership, change. We'll talk about creating experiences. I think that's where the business is heading. We're already there. I work with bureaus. I book business direct as well. So I'm sure there will be questions around that. So why is this important? Well, I think it's a pretty important topic because, good events, good food, good venues, good speakers. Well, that's always very crucial. That's also your marketing for next year. It will drive attendance. There's so many events. People have a lot of choices. So we want everything about the meeting to be great. That's a given. Now, a speaker can definitely make or break an event. It can be very intimidating to shop for a speaker if it's something you don't do often. I was speaking yesterday. I was the opening speaker. So the speakers, I believe, they can set the tone. They can influence the whole rest of the meeting. You definitely don't want the opening speaker to bomb. And then we're not just there to speak. So we have to reinforce some strategic messages. You don't want to work with divas. Like I always say to clients that I work with, I'm not a celebrity. I'm a supplier. I'm here to help work with you so that together we can help you reach your goals. So speaking of goals, I thought I would organize this presentation kind of in chronological order. So how to shop for speakers, where we can find speakers, what to ask speakers, how to negotiate with a speaker. There's definitely events would be, paying to go speak at. So I'll share more about that. But as I said, at the beginning, it is a business. I think the last numbers I've seen, it's a $2 billion businesses. Every day I'm still asked, so you make a living out of speaking? There's thousands and thousands and thousands of speakers, of meetings working every single day. So it's a pretty big business for speakers. It's about branding. It's about positioning, website, media, all of it. So there's a lot of things we worry about so that we are visible, so you can find us easily, so that we are positioned properly. And these are things that we're going to discuss. So where to start? So in my notes here, I have beware of good speakers, and just inspirational isn't enough. So what I mean by that is sometimes, we'll see speakers and it's inspirational, it's motivational, but is it actually, and then it's very tempting to be calling that person and requesting that the person for our meeting. But I think it's very important to start with our goals, the goals that you have for the meeting, the goals that the company has for that meeting, even before starting to look for speakers. Are we looking, and what are the outcomes we are looking for? So are we looking for a training? Are we looking for inspiration? Do we need a big name speaker to draw attendance? I'm not famous. I cannot draw attendance. Now, Roger Federer can draw attendance, a lot more expensive, and sometimes the celebrities, some great speakers, not always the case. So a question we'll have to ask ourselves as well is to be very honest with the intention between each speaker, behind each speaker that we book. So celebrity versus solution, pretty important. A great piece of advice, watch full presentations, or at least, and I know not everybody has 60 minutes to watch a full keynote, and then you're shopping, and then you're considering 5 speakers. You don't have 5 hours. What I will say, it's pretty easy to look good in a 90-second demo. So if you don't have the time to watch a full presentation, what you can request, and I'm getting that request increasingly from bureaus, send us a 5 to 10 minute clip, unedited, no ego shots, no shots of you walking on the stage and behind the scenes and the AV, none of that. We just want 10 minutes of real you speaking, and that's extremely telling. So every speaker should be able to provide that. Demo reels, they can hide weaknesses. There's a huge push. I see a ton of speakers right now producing those very cool and sexy videos. I think we've all had the experience of watching a movie preview, and the preview is just phenomenal. And then you watch the movie, and all the good stuff was in that 90-second preview. So that's something that's quite important. You want to hire a professional, not divas. That's always very important. What I mean by professionals, I'll give you an example. If I live in Quebec City, so if I'm flying across the country to give a talk, you better be sure that even before boarding my plane, you will get a text message from me. Hey, my flight is on time. Right? And then you get a text message from me. I've landed. I'm going to check in at the hotel very soon. One thing I've realized very quickly is the speakers are like, we're in events all the time. That's our day to day. But for I'll take the example of a corporate event planner who's planning their big annual event. It's their wedding. They're stressed out. That's very important, and so all the little things that we can do to make the experience better and easier and stress-free. To me, that's very important. Again, crushing it on the stage is very key. But what happens before is also very, very, very key. Speak directly with the speaker is very important. You don't have to sign a contract without speaking to the speaker. You can request a pre-event contract. You want to check the vibe, check if you'd go for beer with that person, ask specific questions about key messages and customization. So customization is a huge part of what I believe we have to do as speakers. When a client says, hey, we trust you, do your thing, that does not really help. And then on the opposite side, when someone wants to review and approve all slides and all messages, that is extremely productive. So the customization is quite important. Asking about the pre-event process to a speaker, like how will you customize your talk? What's the sequence? What will happen, before the actual event? How will we collaborate together? That's extremely key. And what we want is real customization. We don't want a highly customized 45-second intro and then just the cassette, right? So highly customized means the whole talk is designed and adjusted for this specific event in client. And I think when I ask a company, an organization, what are key messages that are important to you? What I always say is, don't feel like you're telling me what to say. My job is to find stories that will embody those messages. Fees now are more expensive speakers, better speakers. That is definitely not always the case. Obviously, if a speaker is busy, I mean, the only way, and again, we're looking under the hood this afternoon. It's a business, so the only way a speaker can increase revenues is by speaking more or charging more. Now, fees are impacted by a lot of things, and you can have like a $10,000 speaker will deliver at a much higher level than a 20,000 speaker, or you can get a $25,000 speaker that is just going to be phenomenal and superb and actually much better than a cheaper speaker. So fees tend to go up when you're busy, when you can justify it. So that's and when a speaker is busy, like most of what I do is spin-offs and referrals. That also is an indicator that the speaker is tested and proven. Keynote duration is one of my favorite topic for several reasons. The more that I am in this business, like right now, there's a trend for shorter talks. Attention span is something that's brought up quite a bit. I say it depends. And some speakers will have content, will have stories, will have videos to keep audiences on the edge of their seats for 60, for 75, for 90 minutes. Again, that's something that we need to vet and check before. And the pre-event process, also very important. One thing that I think speakers would like to see more is to be involved earlier in the process. And what this enables us to do is, again, a deeper customization when we are going to customize slides for screen sizes, for example. So what you can see there is not the typical 16 by 9. I've done presentations where it's like a 5:1 ratio. You don't want to be pitching a 16 by 9 presentation in the corner. It just doesn't look good, right? So customization of the visuals, that definitely takes a lot of time, and involving the AV supplier earlier in the process is also good. The event is always one before the event, so that's quite important. The magic happens before the event, so obviously first you're going to start shopping for the speaker. There could be a pre-event call. Then we go to contract. Then there's a briefing call. What I want to say here, a briefing call is not the same thing than a content call. So if a contract is signed and the event is a year away, I don't want to disappear. So what I would like to see is a short initial briefing call, just at a very high level. What is the event about? And then when that briefing call happens a year prior, the client's not going to know everything about the event and the messaging and everything, but it's just a first opportunity to gather information from the speaker and to show up a little more ready for the content call, which is going to happen approximately 2 months before the event. Should speakers stick around? Should speakers stay after the keynote? Should they disappear? I mean, obviously, and should that be discussed? Should that be included? Is it extra if a speaker stays an extra day? Obviously, that all depends on the speaker, the level of fees, celebrity, all that stuff. I always joke and I say my clients are renting me for the whole day. So um, every day is like when there's an event, the whole day is dedicated to that. Typically, often 2 days because there's sound checks and that kind of stuff. I like to be present. I like to do the little extra things. That's how you meet people. That's how you network. That's how you can uncover business. So my personal take, we should stick around. We should be there. You want to have balance as well. You don't want to run from events to events to event. And I believe in those in building those relationships basically, because the speech, the talk, the keynote is one thing, but I find that it's everything that you do around that really crystallizes the experience and the relationship. A good example of that, I've got the athlete label on me, so quite often we're adding to the contract like a run with Sébastien. The ideal time for that is maybe at 4 p.m. the day of the keynote or the next morning. Those are little things that we can do so the experience is a little better. What's appealing to a speaker? I wanted to address that as well. Do negotiation tips for you. Associations, whenever there's going to be a large amount of potential clients in the room, that's always very appealing for a speaker. So if the speaker's fee is a bit higher than your budget, that's something you can definitely bring up. And then when it's close to home. So I mentioned I was speaking yesterday. I was speaking in Quebec City, my hometown. I was home 2 hours after the event ended. So that obviously has value at a balance level, but it's also time is money. So if I speak in California, I'm gone for 4 days. If I speak in Quebec City, I'm home for dinner. It's the same fee, right? So that's also a leverage that you have. I think it's a very nice touch to integrate, to include a local speaker to an event, but obviously we never want to compromise on quality and alignment. So I think we should look local first, and then if what we are looking for isn't exactly available, then we can start searching elsewhere. Good questions to ask a speaker. So got a short list here. Number of events per year. I think typically that's a good sign. There's a great speakers who don't speak as much as well. But that can be a good question. Who's on your team is pretty important. How do you create experiences? How do you go beyond the event? What happens if the agenda changes, flexibility, and that kind of stuff? How are we reinforcing messages after the event? So follow up items. There's many ways to stay present after a talk. Red flags. I thought I would bring that up as well. Fees that would typically fees that would be high and not really matching an online presence or brand. So that can be a red flag. Generic presentation. I never build a presentation until after the content event, the content call. So the presentation is customized based on our conversation. No discovery process. That would be an issue for me. And then you want to be looking for experts, really. So a good question to ask is, can you do a 90-minute talk? Can you do a 2-hour talk? And if the answer is no, my keynote is 45 minutes, well, that's a cassette. That's not expertise. That's just a show. That doesn't mean that show is not good. But if we're looking for experts and expertise and a Q&A that is going to be rich, that's also key. No excessive self-promotion, poor communication leading, leading up to the event. And then I mentioned this already, but to just like the in and out just for the keynote, I think we want someone who's going to be more present. Bureaus or direct? That's always a very interesting topic. Bureaus. So 50% of my business is through bureaus, and 50% of my business is direct. I've been exclusive at one time. It was not the ideal scenario for me. I know it works wonders for different types of speakers. Bureaus are phenomenal. They do a great job. I love working with bureaus. What I think is also important is to have an healthy ecosystem. So to be doing 70 gigs a year, you need a lot of leads, of opportunities, of requests. They don't obviously all close. So you need a bit of volume there. So an healthy ecosystem is extremely powerful. Shop for, even before looking for a speaker, shop for a bureau first. They're all different. They all have strengths and weaknesses. And beyond the actual bureaus, because there's big bureaus out there and big reputation and big brands, but beyond that, the relationship is going to be with with the agent. So find somebody you really like working with, and then trust that person. And do's and don'ts. Sometimes to go to, I don't know, if you're looking for a speaker and you go to five different bureaus and you copy and paste your requests, and then everybody's looking for speakers for you, and sometimes they end up on the same speaker. That can create sensitivities or things like that. So always remember, you're paid to shop for a speaker, but they're not paid until you book with them. So I think it's working with the same person and building that relationship can be very powerful. So bureaus are direct. Is it going to be more expensive or less expensive with the bureau? That should never be an issue. That shouldn't be more or less. So fee consistency is extremely important. That's a mark of respect from speakers. That's extremely key, that the fees don't change. And then obviously we make a little less with when it goes through a bureau, but then they're doing so much of the work. They're doing everything, invoicing and contracting and logistical. So it's absolutely fair. Layers of communications before the event. If you're dealing with a speaker directly, well, that can be a little faster. Access to the speaker. Obviously, bureau will have more choices. They will do the shopping for you. I can talk about so one thing that's really important to know: the agent's job is not to know the speaker's content inside out. And it was a frustration for me at one time. They're selling me and they don't really know what I'm talking about, or don't know all the details. And then I as I understood how the business worked, it's not realistic for them to know, because they represent hundreds of speakers. So it's not realistic for them to know the details of every speakers and all their content and that. So their job is to find the best fits, the potential fits based on your requests, based on your goals, and then they can't do it all. So that's why the pre-contract call is very is quite important. Now, creating experiences, that's something that's been very near and dear to me. I love this picture. That is from an immersive experience that I created. So that's available, that's exportable. Experiences on and off stage. So I'm really big on the experience that I create for the client before. I think that's extremely key. Typically, for that kind of experience, the client buys the wow, and we do the work. So collaboration with, so basically when you're looking for speakers that are open to collaborate a long time in advance with the AV provider to make sure that everything is going to work well. That's quite key. We've talked about this, but customizing the visuals, I think it's very, very important. What else did I have? And then extending the impact. Extending the impact, I think, is quite key to go beyond the keynote. So what happens after the keynote is another great question we can ask. There's a lot of creative ways to make the most out of a speaker while that person is at the event. Whether it's a run, as I mentioned, books, participating to the award night, just really incorporating that speaker to the whole experience. Follow-up video. This is something that is so easy for us to do, like 2 weeks after the event. Hi, Mr. Client. I was thinking about the event at the gala. I was speaking with Johnny, mentioned this. This made me think about this very powerful quote. I think this is going to be relevant for your team. Thank you again for having me. Or text messages. So there's something that also possible to do, follow up by text, by email that is sent to the whole audience if they subscribe. But I don't think the talk, the experience should end right after the talk. So on that, I'm easy to find. You can find me through the Prestige team as well. If you want to take a photo of that, you can. And then Sasha, how did I do?
You did pretty great. And, I want to sort of turn this into a little bit of a conversation, and the chat is open because I want to pose some questions to our viewers who are watching. Thank you for sharing all that information, Sébastien. But for those folks who are here, who are planners, I'm actually really curious to hear if anyone wants to share any frustrations or bad experiences that they've had in hiring speakers, or things that have felt unclear or daunting in the process of hiring, because obviously there are bureaus out there. There are people who maybe have been recommended, but I'm curious to sort of see if anyone is willing to share anything that has been difficult for them. And I also, while we're waiting for any responses to come in, wanted to follow up on a couple of things that you talked about, because you mentioned that you can have different expectations of speakers. Whether they're just showing up, doing the event and leaving, whereas someone like you're hired for the day. Can you talk a little bit about sort of how to bridge that subject, and whether that's something that costs more, or is it truly dependent on sort of the celebrity of the speaker and how much they're willing to give? Because tying that in with the idea of avoid divas, you may not know that they are a diva until they actually get in the room with you. So how do you look out for that? And how is that conversation leading up to the event help you sort of weed that out and maybe go maybe this isn't the right choice?
Yeah. So at first, and that's a great question. First, ask the speaker, are you open? Would you want to stay an extra day? Would you want to participate to this? Are you available? Are there extra costs? Some speakers will do it for free. Some speakers, because some speakers like to speak 4 times a week and they're like road warriors, and I don't want to live like that anymore. I'd much rather stay for cocktails and then make new friends. But then you speak a little less. You make less. So have the conversation, ask questions, and as you said, sometimes you find out the person is a diva when you meet them. So ask for references. That's huge. That's huge. Again, everything that I do is spin-ups and references. So a speaker should be able to provide 2 or 3 references, not from 10 years ago, like from 2 months ago, for a month ago, from last week. And that phone call, because sometimes I feel we give references to clients, they don't really check them. They don't make the effort of calling somebody they don't know. Make that effort, because people will love sharing their experience, whether it's good or whether it's bad. Like, people love sharing their experience. That's a way to know, basically.
Excellent. And it's not an uncouth thing to ask either, like, because you want to, if you're a good speaker, you will trust that people have good things to say about you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We had a question come in from Paul Levon. With AI and shorter attention spans, what qualities do you believe keynote speakers need today to keep the audience engaged and focused?
Great question. It's an art, it's a craft. You need to do it a lot to get good at it. I've been doing this for 14 years. There's so many great speakers out there. You need to be able to read a room in real time. You need to be, you need to understand and study storytelling and tempo and how to create like gaps and suspenses and go to something else. You know, you always want to know more before it goes to the commercials on TV. You need to create that in the keynote. It can't be just a long build up to a great finally. You need to be constantly testing material. You need to listen to what your clients are saying. So there's stuff that was in the keynote that I didn't think was great, but like that's what people remember. That's what people talk to me about. So now I know it's relevant. Now I know it's important. So your customers tell you what's good, what's not. I never write speeches. I like it's again, I've been doing this for 14 years, even like jokes. I say stuff on stage, people are laughing. I'm like, that wasn't a joke. Then I tried the next week. Everybody is slapping their knees. I'm like, oh, that's a good joke. So I want to keep that. So the keynote is always evolving, always changing. You're perfecting the content and the delivery every single week. Now, if you watch me speak and then you watch me speak a month later, you're going to think it's very similar. Then you come back 7 years later, it's still Everest. It's still the race across America. It's still, you know, but I look videos of me from 7 years ago. It's still Everest, but there's nothing I used to talk about that I talk about now. And then the jokes come and go. It's just the energy of a good joke because you're surprised yourself at the beginning and then you can deliver like jokes have an expiration date because there's a point where you expect the laugh, you don't deliver it with the same little, and the joke's dead. So there's content that's sometimes really good, and then you have to let it go because it gets to a point where you're not delivering it the same way.
Yeah, Cindy just wrote to us that the most expensive speaker she ever hired turned out to be a jerk. No good interpersonal skills off screen. Very animated when they are on screen. Surprise doesn't always mean a great person or a good speaker. Some people thought he was just full of it. And that actually brings up a great question again that we sort of touched on is sort of just vetting. And you mentioned bureaus. Is that kind of information that you can kind of get a sense from an agent of what a person will be like to work with leading up to the event? Can they give you a sense of that, of sort of their working style?
Yes, definitely. Because if and that's where bureaus are very useful because they have a relationship with the speaker. They know how they operate. Is he responsive? Is she, responsive? Are they late? What's the feedback, we're getting from clients? Hey, like so and so did all these extra things. She was wonderful. Like agents know that. Agents love that because like we're in the same business. So if they book a speaker who's full of it, who's not great, who's like the client will share that information with the agent, and the client is likely to go work with a different agent the next time. So absolutely.
But isn't the agent's job to always promote and get the person hired? Like, will they give you the honest information about like great
No.
speaker, but they're going to be, but just so you know, like this is sort of how they work. So you want to anticipate this.
Good agents just want the same event planners. They want phenomenal events. They're not, I hope to God, they're not interested in booking bad speakers just to get a booking or good agents will not will pitch the best speakers, the best fit, and not the most expensive one because they're making an extra commission. So that trust is being built. And sometimes, a client comes with a big budget and they want a celebrity speaker. Great, they'll find one. And then, but I've seen agents recommend cheaper speakers because they were a better fit, and
Yeah.
that's the agents you want to be working with.
Well, this brings actually a good point to something Paola just wrote in the chat about. Sometimes I rather hire multiple keynote speakers and create a stronger attendee experience than investing the entire budget in a single high profile speaker. And that leads to a question for me, which you touched on in your presentation about fees and negotiation, because obviously there's high profile speakers that are expensive. There are perhaps ones that are lesser known and therefore more affordable price wise. Sometimes that corresponds to quality, sometimes it may not. But in terms of negotiating the fee, if you see like this is their pricing, can you talk about things that event planners can keep in mind in negotiating a rate, and sort of what some of those elements can be to maybe like we really want to hear from the speaker, but like this is our budget. How can you make it work?
Yeah. Um, I mean, that's a great question. So fee consistency, I said it's super important. It is, it's a bit of a myth, uh, because if you're doing 80 gigs a year at full fee, then maybe your fee's too low. And, and so it all depends. Like time of the year is important. Like summer in Canada is not as busy, so I'm more flexible during the summer. Late summer, I feel rusted. So mid-August, I'll accept smaller fees just to, I want to be out there. I want to be on the stage again. It's offer and demand. So basically, if my calendar is full, I like confidently I'll say this is my fee. And if there's no gigs for some reason that month, there will be more flexibility. So don't be afraid to ask. Um, but and it, but it's always going to depend on the speaker.
Right. So ask and then see sort of where it lands. One of the questions I had, and we talked about before, is sometimes multiple bureaus will recommend the same speaker. Are many speakers multi-listed across agencies?
Yes, yes, and so the way it works when I receive an availability from a bureau, my cat out. There we go. Speaking about professionalism. I get a request for a bureau or a direct from a client, I'll put it hold in my calendar. And that's a first hold. If a second bureau comes to me with the same date, same client, that's always sensitive because I'll say, hey, like I've got a hold already for the same date for the same client with a different bureau. And sometimes that bureau will pull back and say, all right, well, you work with them. It's happened to me like the same date, the same client, like 4 different bureaus, and which is good because everybody thinks you're the right fit. But then behind the scenes, the agents are not really happy about that. And then it's kind of sending the message like you're seeing other people, right? You have a relationship with other bureaus, and that it's just very sensitive. It creates a mess, to be honest, sometimes. So that was my point. Find a bureau, an agent you really like, and then build a relationship with them. So when they
As a
recommend a
planner, to be
speaker,
clear, as a planner,
yeah,
so
exactly,
that way
exactly.
keep coming back to them because you'll trust what they offer.
Absolutely, absolutely. Same for planners.
Great question from Katie Melcher. Are there any sites or services out there that can provide reviews or ratings on public speakers that you know of?
Um, what's it called again? I think eSpeakers is an online platform for speakers.
Can
I
you
think there's reviews.
say that one more time?
eSpeakers,
E-speakers.
eSpeakers. Yeah. It can be one of the areas where you look for, but I would go back to ask for references because it's not that hard to get your friends to give you 5-star ratings on
Right.
Google and that kind of stuff. So talk to real client, like invest, like I can't stress this enough. If the speaker bombs, like people sometimes lose their job. Like one of the first things I've learned in this business, like you don't have, like you can't be bad because there's so much that depends on you.
Mm-hmm.
So the extra time to vet a speaker, to speak to previous clients, to speak to the planner. Planners see a lot of speakers. You know, they're phenomenal resources and bureaus as well. And put in the extra time. Like a lot of what I do is de-risking the videos that I put out, the posts that I put out, the pictures that I put out. Like it's you want a potential client or planner to, you know, go spy on you, social media, websites, videos, and it's a de-risking process. And they end up going, this is the person. We like he's smiling, he's energetic, the content is relevant. I've seen him on 10 different stages recently. They're all big events, all big clients. Like I feel confident that this person will not bomb. It's a professional. So invest the extra work prior, and because you absolutely can't go into the event and be thinking, I hope he's good. Like that
You need
cannot.
to know that he's good.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Especially like and this is a challenge I always give myself, like the after the content call, which is 2 months prior to the event, the client should go, oh my God, wow, that's the guy, that's the person. And that happens if you ask good questions and
Well,
you
can you
show up
actually
prepared.
what are good questions for a planner to ask during a content call that will give them a sense whether this is the right choice?
During a content call, so let's say the speaker is booked, um, and you decided to dance, and it's really about messaging and delivering what's the vibe you want, but important themes, important messages. If you had a magic wand, what would happen? What would happen after the keynote? Behaviors you want to see more of, behaviors you want to see less of. Um, and because sometimes and you start digging and sometimes you start and you know because you always start with very general subjects like leadership or but then the more you talk you realize no, that's not, you know, that the real issue is this, or the most important messages are a little different. So that content calls is incredibly important.
And can a planner, in discussing content with you, can they ask you for sampling of slides of what a presentation would look like so they get a sense of your aesthetic and what that will look like for the audience?
Definitely. Definitely. That should be easy to share. Um, because I've got probably literally 50 presentations of like previous events. I don't delete them right away.
Right.
That should be very easy to provide. And you want to know, like, is the speaker a professor who's presenting data, or is it going to be inspirational and mostly pictures? Is it story based? Is it a training like that? Obviously, you need to know. And if there's going to be multiple speakers, you want to create the right flow. It's happened that we recommended that because I was speaking, let's say before the CFO, and so my stuff is inspirational. People laugh, people cry. It's wonderful. But then the CFO goes on, and it's just not there and presenting numbers, and so no having a clear understanding of what the speakers are going to present, what's going to be the vibe, what are the visual assets that will help you design the agenda, which is why one of my comments earlier, involve us earlier in the process. We get emails when the venue is booked, when the AV provider is booked, when everything is booked, and now we need to fill slots. We would
Yeah.
love to be involved a little earlier
Yeah. I
because
mean,
we're
no, go
yeah, go
ahead.
ahead. Because like we're in events all day and we know our content, and we can definitely be part of the brainstorm and contribute to making the event great.
And is that something that would you say most speakers share with you in terms of wanting to be involved, or other people like, this is what I do, hire me or not?
Depends on the speaker. I mean, I just love what I do. I love this business. I love events. So I love that part.
Yeah.
Because I've seen, like, it's over 1,000 events. It's over 1,000 keynotes. I have seen disasters, like the worst disasters. I have seen superb events, and it's about everything that's around the presentations. So there's when you work with a speaker, and again, there's hundreds of them out there who have done thousands of presentations. Often they're not the cheapest, but like they're experts in their fields, but they know events a little bit as well.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest takeaway is just basically the human connection here, whether it's with a speaker when you're talking to them or with an agent with whom you have that strong relationship, who's really going to be able to recommend somebody that you can trust and is going to deliver, makes a huge difference. So I think that's a great takeaway. And actually, Cindy just wrote, I think your experience option, Sébastien, is brilliant. Granted, it's a higher fee, but the sensory experience along with the story is going to set you apart. So continue doing what you do. Well, thank you, Cindy. I hope those are very nice words for Sébastien to
totally.
take.
Thank you so much.
And with that, by the way, if folks would like to get in touch with Sébastien, he obviously presented his information on screen, but you can always contact your Prestige account manager if you want to chat with him more about that, or perhaps even book him, because I've seen his presentation multiple times, and it is quite inspiring. And thank you for inspiring us today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, contact your Prestige account manager if you would love to get in touch with Sébastien. And for everybody else, we appreciate you joining us here today. We're going to be taking July off. So our next presentation will be in August. And for the full list, you can always go to this QR code for webinar lineup, scanning the QR code. And if you've got ideas for a webinar that perhaps you yourself can host, or something you want to hear more about, we always love hearing from people who are watching and joining us. So everybody have a great summer, enjoy your July, and I will see you in August. Take care, everybody.